Hey everybody, it's your girl JLove81. I've received a couple of requests to make a video. So here it is. I will show you some of the newest stuff that I got. I don't have a very big collection. It's still small, but I also live in an apartment, a small apartment, but eventually I'm gonna move on up, and so will my game room. So I will show you what I got. All right, everybody, this is my game room. Don't have much. Like I said, I live in a small apartment, but eventually, I'll get something bigger. It works for now. This is the TV I use for the old school systems, my original Super Nintendo and Nintendo that I had since I was a kid. And these TVs, you actually need to play the old school, like Duck Hunt Gumshoe, whenever you use the NES gun. And here is my advanced controller. I never used this advantage. But I did have that since I was a kid. The original PlayStation 1, Nintendo 64. That is my Game Gear. And I have it, actually the batteries are awful. I'm sure you heard from many people, so it's better to have a power cord and a battery charger for it. So I do have the battery adapter. My old school Game Boy, the original where it all started. That is my original Game Boy. This game I had since I was a kid as well. Really, really old. I'm talking 80s. And it is like a Game and Watch type of game. Really difficult. That's what it looks like. It works like a charm still. You collect bottles. Can't drop the bottles, passing it back and forth. It's fun. And the GameCube, which was actually one of my favorite systems, I preferred this over the PS2, believe it or not, which is down here, and my original Xbox. I did enjoy the PS2. I felt the GameCube had better graphics, better games. That's just me. To each his own, but I'm also a fan of Nintendo. Always chose Nintendo products. Just like the 64. I chose the 64 over the PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1 came a lot later in my life. And the same with the Super Nintendo. I had a choice between Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis. I chose Super Nintendo. I will always put Nintendo first. Don't care what anybody else says. Although I am a big fan of Sony. This is the Model 1 Sega Genesis. I actually got that later in my adult years. But I did play that with relatives, going to a relative's houses and play some Sonic, Altered Beast. Those are games that I have the most memory with. My Xbox 360, and then these are a binder filled with 3DS games. And then here is my 3D XL, but I actually have the 3D. This is my original 3DS. I'm sorry, my 3D XL is in the living room. So we're gonna start with my games up here, and my favorite system, which is the Nintendo system. Up here, you have the Super NES Classic that I was blessed to get on midnight launch at Walmart. And then we have the Legend of Zelda Outlands, one of the best repros of Zelda. And James, Angry Video Game Nerd, signed it, and Mike Matei. So that is freaking awesome. That's why it's up here away from everything else. These are just Game Boy Advance games. All my amiibos that I've collected, and then my NES Classic Edition that I got really lucky to get as well, because that was a pain to find. I did not get it on launch day, but I got it about a month later. Paid a little bit more money for it, but not by much, so I actually got a deal. I actually paid $100 for it. It obviously, you guys seen how much worse it got. This is an autographed E.T. Atari by James, Angry Video Game Nerd. Due to his movie, I thought it would be awesome for him to sign that. I do not own an Atari, but that's just a gem for me. And then here are my Nintendo games. Batman was a good game. I grew up with Mega Man 2. Wasn't a fan of Mega Man 1, but then again, I didn't grow up with it. So Dick Tracy I thought was pretty good. The original Contra, I have so many memories playing that with my cousins, Jason, Dennis. You know I'm talking about you guys. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the best Punch-Out. I had the original Punch-Out as well, and I got rid of it like maybe about 10 years ago. I do regret that. I also had the DuckTales 2 that I sold about 5 years ago, and you know I'm kicking my own ass about that. Gumshoe was a lot of fun. If you have a gun for the NES, I definitely recommend Gumshoe. The Goonies was only released in Japan for the Famicom, and that's why only Goonies 2 was released for the USA. I only played Goonies 2, but I was lucky that I got this at Too Many Games. You know, they do reproduction carts now for us to be able to play it here. Life Force, all my Mario Brothers, all my original games, Duck Hunt. My brother actually gave me this game when I was a kid. It's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Hard as shit. That game pissed me off, and it still does till this day, but it's awesome. I enjoy, I honestly have a lot of fond memories of these games. I'll never get rid of them. I cherish them, whether they suck or not. Like, for example, Top Gun. I still can't land the fucking plane, but you know what? It's alright. It still brings back memories. Got Kirby's Adventure, Gradius, Paperboy, Blaster Master. Awesome game. Little Mermaid, Super Contra. This is actually OK Chief. I won a game off him. He's a YouTuber, awesome guy, and he signed it. So this is a game based off him that John Riggs actually made, and I appreciate John Riggs and OK Chief for that opportunity to win something like that. And then we have Jaws. Never beat it, believe it or not. Original baseball. I have memories playing that with my brother when we were kids. Boy and His Blob. DuckTales. The best DuckTales. Ninja Turtles. I love Ninja Turtles 2. The arcade. My favorite Ninja Turtles. But the original is just something about it is nostalgic. I enjoy playing it. It's hard, but you know, that's what Game Genie's for. And then you have the Legend of Zelda. The original Legend of Zelda, to me, is the best Legend of Zelda that was ever made. Hands down, even though A Link to the Past is pretty close. And then I pretty much got these figures from Too Many Games. I thought they were pretty cool. They look old school. Mario with his red overalls from back in the day. My NES cleaning kit back here, which I thought was pretty sweet. And then my 8-bit characters, all the original. This is my childhood right here, guys. I love that look. Inbox Yoshi, which is also a Nintendo game. And then back here, I actually have my Game Boy games, 3DS games, DS games. This I actually won from GameStop. You know, when you hand in your points, so I thought it was pretty cool. And then actually what he's on top of is the Dr. Mario amiibo that I won from World of Nintendo. Everybody check out World of Nintendo on YouTube. He has an awesome room. And I won that off him. So thank you, World of Nintendo. And then here's some of my car collections. And then you got the white 8-bit Link. And then the red 8-bit Link. When you get the red ring. It looked blue to me, to be honest with you, so I always thought it was the blue ring. But here's my Game Genie that I got. Game Genie for the Super Nintendo and Game Genie for the Nintendo. And I actually got that in my later years. And here's my Lara Croft. I love Tomb Raider. You got the Sega Game Gear games that I grew up with. My all-time favorite was the original Sonic, which is right here. Here is some Sega Genesis games. Aladdin, Sonic 2, the 3-in-1 Road Rash. There's some box games here. Altered Beast, Lion King. Not very big collector for the Sega Genesis yet, but that should change. Like I said, I really didn't grow up with it. Some PSP games. And we're going to start with the Super Nintendo. So we have Donkey Kong Country, my all-time favorite Super Nintendo game. And then you have Super Mario World, Super Mario Kart. I grew up playing those. Turtles in Time. My second all-time favorite game for the Super Nintendo, I played that religiously, F-Zero. F-Zero was probably one of the first games I've owned besides Super Mario World and SimCity. So I appreciate my mom getting me that. I had no idea what it was, and I fell in love with the series since. I have every F-Zero game that ever came out afterwards. You got Home Alone and Battletoads, Final Fight. Of course, A Link to the Past. You are nuts if you have a Super Nintendo and not A Link to the Past. And then Mario's Missing, Pilot Wings, of course, Yoshi's Island. I really wasn't big on Yoshi's Island. I don't know. The original was better to me. Here is SimCity. That's a freaking awesome game. Contra 3 pissed me off. That game is hard. That game gives me an outer body when I play it. Here is some Nintendo 64 games. I did get the labels off Etsy. That's where I went for the labels. But I have the Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64. Freaking awesome game. I grew up with Mario Kart 64. Super Mario 64. Diddy Kong Racing was actually my all-time favorite. F-Zero X, which I thought was pretty sweet. And the number one game for me, GoldenEye 007. I played this religiously with friends at their houses because we didn't have online at the time. So this is how you interacted with people. And we just enjoyed killing each other using proximity mines and all kinds of stuff. Grenade launchers. It was awesome. So that's pretty much Yoshi's Story. Awesome game. Resident Evil 2 was the first Resident Evil game I've ever played in my life. So that's what introduced me to the Resident Evil series. And then I went backwards and started playing them all. So awesome, awesome game. And then we have my favorite, GameCube. So you got the Tony Hawk Underground 2, which I really loved the Tony Hawk series back then. It's not the same. It just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it as I used to be. But this one is one of the best games for Tony Hawk. Paper Mario, one of my favorite games as well for the GameCube. And you got the F-Zero GX, which I really enjoyed. Luigi's Mansion was kick-ass. I thought that game, the graphics were outstanding. Of course, you got the Super Smash Brothers. And then you have Chibi Robo. Let me explain this. This is a good game. If you have a GameCube, I recommend picking it up. I had a blast playing it. I got lucky that I got it when it was cheap. It is now actually about $100, going up in price. So grab it before it gets more expensive if you can. This is the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. It was like a promotional disc. And it comes with the 2 original NES Legend of Zeldas and the Nintendo 64 Zeldas as well. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Mario Kart Double Dash, and then you have Dark Summit. Dark Summit was another game I actually enjoyed. It's fun. I recommend it as well. Then you got the original Underground Sonic Mega Collection. Sonic Adventure 2, that's a freaking awesome game. I had fun with that. And then Resident Evil 0, Wave Race, and Mario Superstars Baseball, which I thought was pretty fun. Down here, we got original PlayStation games. You got Grand Theft Auto, Crash Bandicoots, Frogger. My number one is Crash Bandicoot, which of course, and Tomb Raider. Then you have Mortal Kombat. I really didn't collect too many games for the PlayStation 1. Like I said, I grew up more with the 64 Nintendo, but I am, I'll get there. The Suffering, freaking awesome game. I recommend it if you haven't played it. If you like horror, I thought it was freaking good. It takes place in a prison. I thought it was interesting. Then you have all this right here, True Crime New York City. I love that game. It beats True Crime Streets of LA, which I actually think I skipped that, but I have it right here for the GameCube. It was okay, but this one, I like this one. You got the Grand Theft Autos. Grand Theft Auto 3. I do have San Andreas as well. Ratchet and Clank. Now, the reason Bully was actually pretty good too, but the Ratchet and Clank series was my favorite series. My favorite all-time series. That's what PlayStation 2 introduced me to that. And I've been buying Ratchet and Clank games since Indigo Prophecy. I recommend that game if you liked Heavy Rain. Same company that made that. So it is, if you like, I want to say it's more like a mystery type. I don't know. You make your own decisions throughout the game. I thought it was interesting. It was like playing a damn movie. And then here we go with the Ratchet and Clank up your arsenal. You got Going Commando. Going Commando is my favorite Ratchet and Clank game of all time. I Ninja. Hey, this one, Rise to Honor, I thought was freaking awesome. Nobody really talks about that. I enjoyed it. It has Jet Li in it, so it was a kick-ass fighting game. Action game, if you will. Def Jam Fight for New York. This introduced me to the Def Jam series. So I do have that. And as you could tell, I also have Def Jam Vendetta for the GameCube. And then I have Def Jam Icon for the PlayStation 3. And then that's it. They stopped making them. I don't know why. I had this since I was a kid. It still works till this day. I think it's freaking awesome. And that's it for this list of games here. Here's some of my old school. I lost his hat moving around as a kid, but I've actually had him since I was, I want to say maybe 9 years old. Comic books. Pat the NES Punk. Pat, thank you for this book. I enjoy it. It's a very informative book. I got that at Too Many Games off him. And we'll go up to my posters over here. Grand Theft Auto poster. My signed, autographed Angry Video Game Nerd the movie poster that I got from James himself, Angry Video Game Nerd at Too Many Games, Mike Matei. Kyle, who is the, he sings the theme song for the Angry Video Game Nerd. And Bootsy. If you watch Cinemassacre, everybody has to know who Bootsy is. We have the Mario Maker puzzle, believe it or not. We have the Legend of Zelda puzzle. We have Mario poster and another Mario puzzle. And then this one came with the Super Nintendo. So this one is freaking awesome. And it comes with a list of games that were popular on the Super Nintendo. So I thought that was pretty cool. And here is another Mario poster. Puzzle, actually, that my better half made, which is awesome. I have no patience for this. Here is the NES Classic Edition poster that came with that. Super Mario 3, one of my favorite Mario games for the Nintendo. And all these figures I've had since I was a kid. I've been collecting forever. As you could tell like some of them are the old school McDonald's figures. Some of them are newer figures. I mean, this is insane that I still have these. Those Mario figures over here, believe it or not, look at their overalls. Back in the day, he had red overalls. So that's how you know what's old school, what isn't. And I still have that till this day. But yeah, these are my figures. I have an old school Luigi too. There he is. Look at that. When he used to wear all green. Isn't that crazy? So that's pretty much it as far as my game room. Now I'll show you what I have in the living room. So here is my living room. My Nintendo Entertainment System blanket. My Mario blanket over there. This is what I watch. I do not watch cable. All I do is watch Netflix and YouTube. I swear, that's all. Nobody needs cable anymore. I'll get a Fire Stick eventually. But, we'll look at my games up here. Here are my Pixel Pals. And as you could tell by other YouTubers, they do light up. I only have 4 right now, but eventually I'd like to. They all work. And my collection. These are pretty much my list of Nintendo Wii U games. Mario Maker was my all-time favorite for the Wii U, as well as the Mario 3D World. Mario Kart was good as well, I'm not gonna lie, but the Switch version is much better. Uncharted series. I am a big fan of Uncharted. I do have all the originals for the PS3. And then, pretty much what I have for the, I mean, I like Call of Duty. I did not get the most recent one, but I will get World War II. Grand Theft Auto 5, awesome game. Crash Bandicoot Trilogy, that is freaking tough. I can tell you that. And then my Switch games, not very big. I got the Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8, Puyo Puyo, and then the Ultra Street Fighter. And then everything else is downloaded onto the system. Here is my Wii games. Believe it or not, I really was not a big fan of the Wii. The best game to me was Super Paper Mario. I'll probably get a lot of shit for that. But I really was not big on the Mario Galaxies. I don't know why. I just was not big on them. And believe it or not, I'm not a fan of motion control, which is probably why I did not like Skyward Sword. I just never was a big fan of the Wii. I played with my friends when we played like bowling, stuff like that. You know, the sports titles were pretty good. And then here is my PlayStation 3 list, which we'll take it down here. The Resident Evil Resistance was pretty good. I enjoyed that series actually. Nobody really talks about that. I liked it. There goes my Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. Tools of Destruction was pretty good. Ratchet and Clank, of course. LA Noire was a good one. I recommend that as well. Heavy Rain, my all-time favorite. All-time favorite game for the freaking PlayStation 3. If you did not play that, I recommend this game. God of War, really good series. Ghostbusters was awesome. It was probably the best Ghostbusters game they ever came out with on a video game system. And then you have the Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5. Family Guy, DJ Hero, Def Jam Icon, etc., etc. And then I guess here you have Xbox 360 games. I love the Saints Row series. I do have Saints Row 2 and 3 for the PS3. And then it got stupid. It's not the same. If you agree, comment below about the Saints Row series. I hope they go back to the way it was. And I only really have Halo for Xbox for the Halo series, which is why I currently have an Xbox One. And that's pretty much it for that. Now we'll go on to the systems. So here, obviously, you can see the Wii U, the Nintendo Switch, the NES Classic Edition, and I just got the SNES Classic. This game is awesome. This right here is a RetroPie. It's actually a buddy of mine. His name is Jimmy, made this. I'm going to show you what this can do, actually. So we'll see that in a minute. Here we got the slimmer model the PlayStation 4. So that is the old model PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Wii U, and the Nintendo Wii. This is the slim model PlayStation 3. So I do have two PlayStation 3s. One's backward compatible, one is not. And my Xbox One with all the wires. All these wires are what's connected up here to my RetroPie and the Super Nintendo Classic Edition. So people do come over, we do play it. I recommend getting the extension for these things. I also bought one for my RetroPie. You could get a USB extension. So this way it reaches all the way to the couch. You could get one for the Super Nintendo Classic and the Nintendo Classic. You can get it off Amazon. That's where I buy my stuff from. And it reaches. And now I'll show you the RetroPie and what that looks like, as well as the Super Nintendo Classic. So this is what happens when you turn on the Super Nintendo Classic. You obviously have your list of games here. Castlevania 4, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Star Fox 2, the newest game on here, Star Fox, Secret of Mana, Mega Man X, Kirby's Dream Course, Kirby Superstar, Final Fantasy 3, F-Zero, one of my favorites, Earthbound, Donkey Kong Country, I love that game, Contra 3, Yoshi's Island, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, freaking great game, Super Punch-Out, Super Metroid, and then you have Super Mario World. I love this game. Super Mario RPG, which was another great game, almost like a introduction to the Paper Mario series, I would say. And then you got the Super Mario Kart, Super Ghouls and Ghosts. So that's what it looks like, and then it has save points, and it works like a charm. I will show you the RetroPie now. And you guys, I'm sure, seen the NES Classic already. I also plan on hacking the SNES when that becomes available. Just like I did my NES Classic, I put about 92 games on there. So here is what it looks like when you first turn on the RetroPie Super Nintendo games. Right underneath it, it says 786 games. Sega Mega Drive, 33 games. That is the title. That's like the main menu for the RetroPie. PC Engine, TurboGrafx 16, 94 games. Nintendo, 792 games available. Neo Geo, 142 games. Sega Mega Drive, which is the European version of Sega Genesis, 782 games. Sega Master System, 281. Game Boy Color, 535 games. Game Boy Advance, 105 games. Game Boy, 565 games. You don't realize how many games were out back in the day. Famicom Disk System, 90 games. FB Alpha, so there you go. Emulator of arcade games. Lynx handheld. Atari 2600, 648 games. And then you got arcades. So these have tons of arcade games, including the Turtles in Time, Turtles, Pac-Man, Mrs. Pac-Man, stuff like that. But I'll give you an example. If we select Super Nintendo, here are all the games. Alphabetical order. If you want to skip, you just go to a letter. Skip to what you want to play. So if we want to find the S's, we go to the S's, and that's pretty much it. So if I want to play SimCity, which I did talk about, I click on that. I mean, he did a great job. I recommend picking one of these up if you guys have a chance. If anybody needs information, just hit me up below. I love this thing. And that's how it starts. You play it like anything else. Back out, go back, hit start and select. And it looks like your standard Super Nintendo controller plugged into this thing. And that's how you get back to the main menu. Alright guys, that's it for my game room tour. That's pretty much it for my game collection. Like I said, eventually it's going to grow. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Thumbs up, comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I want to thank Game Chasers, 8-Bit Eric, Nintendo Drew, RGT85, Wood from Beat 'em Ups, Alpha Omega Sin, Gaming Historian. I could go on and on. Gamester81. There's just so many gamers out there that I watch religiously on YouTube. CND. I can't even, that's just a few. But there's tons and tons. Anybody have any questions, leave a comment below and let me know what you guys think. Catch you later.